Good morning and welcome to you and to the light as it begins to return. My name is Megan Lancaster and I will be your service coordinator today. Today's reflection, the coming of peace, will be given by our minister, Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley. I welcome all of you, and we, the congregation, welcome most particularly those of you who may be visiting us today. If you are new to North Chapel, consider signing the guest book at the back of the sanctuary. This is also where you may find hearing assistance devices and large print hymnals should you need them. Amazingly, no one has come to talk to me about any announcements today. So here we are without announcements. But please turn off any device that might make noise. Thank you, Anne. So every year in December, I try before the solstice, though this year I have not made it, I reread Susan Cooper's book, The Dark is Rising, which takes place at this time, and being a fantasy lover, I love. So as I was planning for today, it made me think, oh wait, she wrote a poem that's perfect since yesterday was solstice. So you most likely have heard it at one time or another, but The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper. And so the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. And through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And now so do we, here, now, this year and every year. Welcome, Yule. So as we move on to our time of meditation, consider planting your feet flat on the floor, shoulders back, hands open in your lap, palms up, should you like. And then breathe. Breathe and breathe thoughtfully, remembering it is not we who breathe, but the spirit of life that breathes through us.
You are the light of the world. Welcome, everyone. It's good to be together. I love jokes. I love good jokes, and I love bad jokes, actually. I love all kinds of jokes. I love most of them, anyway. I love new jokes told by old people. I love old jokes told by kids. I like jokes like, why was 6 mad at 7? Because 7, 8, 9, right? I like jokes like, what did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. May it be so, blessed be. Oh my God. I still like the joke that a 5-year-old kid told me once a long time ago. It's a compound joke, so you have to pay attention. Okay. So, why did the chicken cross the road? To get to your house. Knock, knock. The chicken. I think this joke is hilarious and I have no idea what it means. I do know that laughing out loud with my 5-year-old friend felt like heaven on earth. So did that hope. Thank you. Here's one, it's a regional one. Why did the wild turkeys of central Vermont cross the road? What was that?
To see if they could actually make it to the other side.
That's a good one. Does anybody else have an answer? A guess?
To get shot by the police.
To get shot by the. What do you have, Sky? What's your answer? To get to a barn? That's a great answer. It's probably the right one. To cross over to the wild side. These are great. The answer that I learned was that the truth is that wild turkeys of central Vermont don't know why they cross. They honestly don't know themselves. The same is probably true for us. How well do we know ourselves? I think this turkey joke is hilarious, and this time I do know what it means because I saw some wild turkeys crossing the road the other day. I saw a group of 5 turkeys crossing the road. I was driving, but I approached them slowly. I didn't startle them, they were not flustered. 4 of the turkeys crossed in front of me as I was driving near Artistry, and one of them did not cross, but patiently waited for me to pass. This stranded wild turkey waited politely. And I slowed down to a crawl so that the turkey could cross the road and not be separated from the other group. This time it was my turn to wait politely, but the wild turkey did not cross. It insisted on waiting for me to drive by, misunderstanding the gesture of my kindness. After a few seconds, the wild turkey caught on and crossed the road to join the others. But as it did, one of the 4 that had already crossed the road decided to cross back across the road. So 2 turkeys crossed simultaneously. At the same time, but in opposite directions, they crossed in front of me and they acknowledged each other, beak to beak. Clearly, I was not in control of what was happening. The turkeys were. The net gain of my kindness was 0. Despite my efforts, the balance of roadside turkeys remained 4-1. Nothing had changed, and the weirdest thing was that the newly stranded turkey, the one that had crossed and then recrossed the road, was looking at me as if I was the problem. I waited a little longer, but he still would not cross. He was waiting until I drove by. That double-crossing turkey was waiting for me now. Waiting impatiently, I might add. Waiting with an attitude. He seemed irritated, he seemed exasperated, and in a way that made me nervous. So I waited a little more, and then I decided to go, and as I did, after I did, the turkey crossed the road for the 3rd time. I saw it in my rearview mirror. The turkey crossed the road. He had his wings up in the air like this, as if he was complaining to his turkey friends, as if he was saying something like, "Finally!" So I cursed at this stupid double-crossing turkey. I'd had more than enough. I decided to straighten this turkey out. I said, look, man, I was the one who was waiting for you in the first place. I should be the one throwing my hands up in the air and saying, finally. It should be me instead of you. And then I heard with my own ears the sound of my own voice. And I realized that I was trash talking a wild turkey in my car. Alone, in broad daylight, and right out loud. My hands were no longer on the steering wheel, where the hands of a more rational driver would be. They were up in the air, like this, like the wild turkey that had been crossing behind me. Clearly, I had lost control somehow. There was a poem called Encounter that was written by a dear friend of mine, Rick Maston, a poem that reassures me that I'm not alone in times like this. He writes, "It was just that I was having a very touchy day, and that's really all that I can say to explain why, while walking through the Sears and Roebuck department store, I happened to get into a fist fight with a mannequin." Sometimes we lose our way and we get upset. I think there are good times to take a breath and to think about the coming of peace. And to think about those bad times when we get into fist fights with mannequins and wild turkeys, or with family members. How well do we know ourselves? This is a good question to ask. It's a good question for us to ask together, because so often we are driven away from one another, driven away from peace by forces that we don't understand. We lose our sense of balance so easily, and we let the turkeys get us down. Crazy things can happen during the holidays, crazy things that help us to know ourselves and one another. This Christmas season is now in high gear. We're coming into the home stretch now. The Christmas carols are filling the air. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, the snow is glistening. There you are. Beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. And there's another one that goes, oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire's so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let us know, let us know. And then there's my favorite, which is chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nibbling at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows. Oh, that's awesome, right? Okay. Christmas is a time to be joyful. It's a wonderful time of year, obviously because of the coming of peace. We can have faith in that, even when the world tells us otherwise. All of us can have faith like that. It's quite easy, actually. It's easy for you, and it's easy for me. It's easy for everyone to welcome the coming of peace. Christmas is a time of really good cheer. It's a time for really bad sweaters. It's a time for cacophonous Christmas carol singing, off-key harmonies ringing in the season of the holy birth. What could be better than that? It's a time for goodness and sweetness and love and light and friendship. It's also a time for really bad television. I saw this comedy skit the other day. I didn't think it was very funny. It was a takeoff on the Maury Povich talk show. Maury Povich was a talk show host, and he's now a retired multi-millionaire. He was the one that interviewed guests with scandalous lives. It was the Who's the Real Father show, if you remember. He would reveal the results of paternity tests on live TV in front of the parents. So now there's this 17-year-old comedy skit circulating on social media now. It's not from the Maury Povich show, which is already pretty outrageous. It's from a spoof on the Maury Povich show. A fake Maury Povich is casually dressed, nice slacks, shiny shoes. He's holding a plain manila envelope in his hands, just like the real Maury Povich did. Fake Maury sits comfortably cross-legged just to the left of center stage. His guests are supposed to be Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus from the Bible. Fake Mary is in the middle, and fake Joseph is to her left. They are dressed in ancient Bethlehem period clothing. Mary is in light Bible blue, and fake Joseph is in standard desert beige. Both of them are nervous and tense. They are not holding hands. In the chyron, in the caption at the bottom of the TV screen, there are 4 words: "The results are in." Fake Maury reports the findings as dramatically as possible. He says, "When it comes to the matter of baby Jesus, Joseph, you are not the father." And the audience goes wild. Joseph is elated. He cries out in great relief. He's vindicated. He rises to his feet. He jumps into the air as if he just scored a touchdown of some kind. Mary is broken by the news. She is shattered by it, crestfallen. She cries. She's shocked. She's being shamed on live TV. She's humiliated, irredeemably humiliated, and she leaves the stage in tears as quickly as she can. She thinks that she's been ruined by a child, ruined by a miracle child growing within her womb. Of course, she is mistaken, but she didn't know this at the time, and no one in the scene knew it either. Fake Mary had not yet stepped into her power. She did not know who she truly was. She did not know herself. She didn't know that she was becoming the Mother of God. Everyone was laughing, and the people on the show were laughing, and in the audience, everyone was laughing at the Holy Mother of God, mocking her in all her glory, and nobody was singing hallelujah. This video clip is nothing really. It's silly. It's just a 30-second skit, and it's 17 years old, and its humor hasn't stood the test of time very well. And it was supposed to be funny, and it was supposed to make us laugh, and it was supposed to be off-color, and it was supposed to make us cringe. And of course, it was supposed to keep us watching, which it does really well, which tells us something about ourselves, something that's not necessarily great. So I see why traditional Christians are offended by things like this. I see why they react the way they do sometimes. It's natural to become defensive when we're protecting something precious, when we're protecting something that we really love. Like the story of the Holy One, the one who said, "You are the light of the world." It's not complicated, right? It's just when things like fake Maury Povich show upsets Christians and Christian-identified people, I think I get it. It's probably because certain things are just too beautiful to trivialize. It's not a matter of being pious for me. I don't think it matters very much whether or not one is offended. I don't take issue with being politically correct or incorrect. I think it matters exquisitely, though, that we honor the things that are beautiful in life. I think it matters exquisitely that we become fierce and gentle. Fierce and gentle, as the Gospel of Matthew asks us to be. Fierce in our protection of the holy and gentle in our protection of the stories, the sacred stories, the ones that offer access to the coming of peace. We're so lucky. I think we are, you and I, because there are so many teachers of the coming of peace. President Lincoln taught us this in a time of civil war, and Dr. King taught us this in a time of civil rights. Soul level deep, both leaders valued the public interest and the common good. They were driven by the concept, by the meaning, and by the power of true citizenship, the value of belonging to the city on the hill. There are so many teachers, really. Lincoln, King, Kennedy, Rabin, Mandela, Carter, Robinson, Ghebreyesus from the World Health Organization, or Gutierrez from the UN. Bernie Sanders teaches peace, and Leahy and Welch. And the list goes on, and even our children are teachers of peace, with their smiles and their growth and their laughter and with their mistakes and with their achievements and with their knock-knock jokes about silly chickens. Even their parents are teachers of peace, imperfect mothers and impatient fathers. Mary and Joseph are sacred symbols of these. Mary and Joseph are sacred symbols of us. I believe this. I think that Mary and Joseph are sacred symbols of us. And if you're like me, and if fake Maury Povich skits get under your skin sometimes, then you might be defending something beautiful. But don't let yourself be too grinchy about it, or you'll end up stealing Christmas. Don't become overly protective about what you love. Just love. That's enough. That's enough for the coming of peace. This makes sense to me. I'm not scandalized by it. I just think that's the way it is. I would like to close this morning with a story about another Christmas skit, one that we made up in Minnesota. My friend Carrie had written a play, a skit that we were supposed to act out for a Christmas Eve service. Carrie wrote all of the parts for all of the staff members, and she knew us pretty well. So she gave us parts that would be familiar to our personalities. I was to be the narrator, the host of a TV Christmas talk show. Ironically, I was encouraged to play the role like a Unitarian Universalist Maury Povich. But I was encouraged to take it a little bit more seriously. I played the part of a doubting professor, a skeptic who shot holes in things. My job was to cast doubt on the honor of a teenage mother and to cast dispersions on Joseph's integrity. I wore a scholarly robe. My stole was replaced by a doctoral hood. I sat cross-legged center stage, peering over reading glasses and looking down on things. I pretended to be detached. I pretended to be superior. I pretended to be better than other people, only to be proven terribly wrong. I remember that my most damning line was really judgmental, something like, "What man in his right mind would knowingly and willfully choose to marry a woman who is already pregnant with another man's child?" I'm sure Carrie had a lot of fun making me say the opposite of what I truly believe. Carrie is a trickster. This line was a cue, and at this point, a young man who was playing the role of Joseph was supposed to pop up and say, "I would marry a woman like that," thus derailing the scholar and his ways. But before Joseph could deliver his line, a man interrupted the play. A conservative Christian man rudely interrupted the play. He decided that it was time to straighten me out. He stood up from his pew and he raised his voice and he raised a question. He said, "If you don't believe the story of Jesus, why are you leading a service on Christmas Eve?" It's a great question. He thought that I believed what my character was saying in the play. He didn't know that I was only acting. He thought that I was ruining Christmas for everyone, so he defended what was precious, unfortunately, at the expense of a deeper truth. He thought he was yelling at a wild turkey. He thought he was beating up on a mannequin. He didn't know himself before he spoke. We get driven away from one another. We lose our sense of balance so easily. This particular conservative Christian man was the father of a friend of mine, a Unitarian Universalist colleague of mine, a lesbian Unitarian Universalist colleague of mine. This particular conservative Christian man was helpless as he watched his teenage daughter slowly turn away from ideas of traditional family. He was helpless because he loved her and because he was trying to support her choices. He'd been helpless as he watched her turn away from the Christian church, the church of his family. And again, he was helpless because he loved her and because he was trying to be supportive. And then he thought that he was helpless for a third time, watching his daughter turn away from the deepest meanings of Christmas. The doubting of Joseph, the shaming of Mary, the belittling of the little baby was a bridge too far for him, and he broke. He interrupted the play. He made a scene. I thought it was awesome. Church got real in 2 seconds, flat. It ended well. The play went on, and he quickly realized his mistake. He apologized. He was so embarrassed. but I wasn't embarrassed at all. The experience taught us something about Christmas. Christmas is not about falseness. The coming of peace is no joke. Christmas is about a brave light, a deep faith, and a great love. A love that extends to all that can be named, and all of that which is beyond all naming. Joseph was a miracle, and so are you. He followed his heart where it led him. Mary was a miracle, and so are all of you. She followed her heart where it led her. And as the story goes, the child that they raised turned out pretty well. The coming of peace means letting go of that which divides us. It means letting go of being right and being proud and being superior in narrow little ways. Christmas is having faith in the coming peace. So don't let the turkeys get you down. You know them better than you think. They're probably members of your family, and they're also probably you. You and me both, my friends. So let's stop projecting our fears on others, and let's start accepting ourselves. Let's learn to love the wild turkey within. Love your inner turkey. What could be more Christmassy than that? Maybe so. Blessed be, and amen.